Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for this next installment of the CBRN Business Support webinar series. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce established the Canadian Business Resilience Network to bring together a vast network of chambers of commerce, boards of trades, and leading business associations to help the Canadian business community through COVID-19. This webinar series tools and supports available online at cbrn.ca to support Canadian businesses' continuity efforts. This series and other tools are made possible by our valued CBRN partners, such as the Insurance Bureau of Canada. Gill, the Senior Director of Tax and Financial Policy at the Canadian Chamber. It's my pleasure to introduce you today to today's presenter, Pete Karageorgos, Consumer and Industry Relations for Ontario with the Insurance. Daniel Safanian, the Vice President of Policy for the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, who is our special guest and will lead the Q&A component of this webinar. When it comes to commercial insurance, many business owners are seeing their premiums rise and may find it difficult to get to the appropriate insurance needs in certain regions. There are no easy solutions to the problem. Canadians insurers are pulling together to find creative solutions to support businesses across all sectors in accessing what they need. Pete will present some of the key economic dynamics affecting Canada's property and casualty insurers, how the industry, governments, and businesses are working in partnership to address the current challenges, and more importantly, tools and resources IBC and insurers are providing to support Canadian businesses. And with that, I turn things over to Pete for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Good day, everyone. It's Pete Karageorgos here with the Insurance Bureau of Canada. As Patrick mentioned, my name is Pete Karageorgos, and I'm Director of Consumer and Industry Relations for Ontario with Insurance Bureau of Canada. IBC is the National Trade Association representing Canada's private home, auto, and business insurers. IBC members represent 90% of the Canadian property and casualty insurance market. As a financial services sector, our industry plays a significant role in the Canadian economy. And that includes 192 private insurance companies competing from coast to coast, employing approximately 131,600 Canadians. While auto insurance is a staple of the sector, personal and business insurance products represent the majority of premiums written to help provide financial resilience to Canadians. And our industry contributes approximately $9.1 billion in taxes to provincial and federal governments alike. And I want to thank you for taking the time to join this afternoon or this morning to discuss the issues impacting commercial insurance in Canada. Today's presentation will share an overview of the challenges currently impacting the commercial insurance marketplace in Canada. I will discuss some of the unprecedented steps our industry has taken to support commercial clients, and then speak briefly about how we can all work together, industry, business, and governments, to address the current challenges. The last section will cover some of the resources we have put in place to assist commercial clients. And then I'll be able and happy to assist with a short Q&A session to answer any questions you may have. And again, please use the Slido feature. IBC understands that businesses across Canada are facing extraordinary challenges due to the difficult economic conditions created by the COVID-19 pandemic. And we know there are real challenges in some sectors concerning the availability and affordability of commercial insurance. While there are no easy solutions to the problem, Canada's insurers are pulling together to find creative solutions to support businesses across all sectors in accessing the insurance they need. Canada's commercial insurance industry was facing challenges coming into 2020 from the following main contributing factors: an extended period of weather-related claims that were both more severe and more frequent, The increase in claims combined with market pressures have caused some insurers to reconsider the types of risks they're willing to underwrite. Now, this has led to a reduction in supply, or in other words, a reduction in the amount of risk insurers can reasonably take on while keeping in mind obligations they have for existing clients and policies. This unfortunately has had a direct impact on premiums for some sectors of the economy. Despite challenging market conditions, insurers have been able to cover increasing claims by using reserves that have been accumulated through investments. However, an extended period of record low interest rates for bonds has impacted investment income. Insurer reserves have been impacted, and that has led to capacity withdrawal in certain commercial product lines. As you likely know, insurance is a highly regulated industry by governments at the federal and provincial level, and includes how insurance companies can invest, and this is primarily limited to the bond market. Now, we look at some of the factors affecting commercial insurance. The increase in frequency of weather events is one of the most complex factors affecting the property insurance market. While more severe weather events have led to an increase in demand for certain insurance products, the pricing of such policies is challenging given the wide fluctuations in weather patterns, which creates risks and volatility. In 2016, for example, the Canadian insurance industry experienced the highest ever natural catastrophe loss for a single year, totaling $5.1 billion in claims. Those are claims paid out by the private insurers, and it doesn't include any costs related to those catastrophes paid for by governments related to infrastructure. These losses are part of an alarming trend. And between 2001 and 2010, there were only 47 catastrophes, and those are catastrophes where insured losses exceeded 25 million across Canada. The average annual loss, again, from 2001 to 2010 totaled 400 million. Now, between 2011 and 2019, there were 91 catastrophes, raising the annual average insured loss to $1.9 billion. In 2020, two major events in Alberta resulted in more than $2 billion in insured losses alone. If you look at the last decade, 2020 saw the second highest total for insured losses as a result of natural disasters at approximately $2.4 billion. While Canada's insurers have been working to keep rate increases to a minimum, the increase in claims added to declining investment income has created a need to raise premiums in order to meet obligations to policyholders. Insurance is an important financial resilience tool that works by pooling premiums in order to deploy capital to where it is needed. Now, in other words, the premiums of the many go to help pay for the claims of the few. The COVID-19 pandemic has compounded the existing insurance industry challenges and creates a unique dynamic focused on affordability and availability. We have seen a worldwide suppression of economic activity in the interest of public safety measures. Many businesses, many of your own businesses even, are on the front lines of this economic downturn. Insurers understand the challenges the pandemic has created and have acted to help customers in their time of need. Since the beginning of the pandemic, insurers have supported Canadians, returning hundreds of millions of dollars to commercial clients, with over 80% specifically for small businesses. Insurers are continuing to work with their clients to support them through these unprecedented and challenging times. Insurers also return hundreds of millions in auto premiums to customers to reflect the reality that people were driving less and claims were down. In total, these consumer relief measures have totaled over $1 billion, and that's over and above payouts for claims that are ongoing. The value of actions taken by Canada's P&C insurance industry to provide relief to personal and business customers during the pandemic is unparalleled in the financial services sector. We are one of the only industries that is actively putting money back into the pockets of consumers. But we are doing even more to help businesses across Canada during these times. To offer and gain a broader understanding of how the challenging market conditions are impacting Canadian insurers, intermediaries, and commercial clients, IBC commissioned a report by Deloitte. Deloitte's report, titled State of the Canadian Commercial Property and Casualty Insurance Market, was released in early November 2020. The report states the Canadian commercial insurance market became a, quote, hard market in 2019. Which means the market entered a period of higher rates and reduced underwriting capacity for certain lines of businesses and in specific regions. This hard market follows a prolonged soft market cycle characterized by low rates, high limits, flexible contracts, and high availability of coverage. Deloitte concludes that the challenges affecting the availability of commercial insurance are complex, with global macroeconomic factors and the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic compounding the issue. Now, years of insufficient underwriting profitability, driven by rising claims costs, and low returns on investments led to an overall decline in net income between 2015 and 2019 for property and casualty insurers. I want to share with you a couple of quotes from the report that I believe are useful in understanding the current situation. On page 3, it states, quote, global macroeconomic conditions remain uncertain and investors are therefore hesitant to provide capital. Insurers may accept less risk and reduce their underwriting capacity to ensure sufficient financial strength to service future claims. And additionally, on page 10, it notes the uncertainty in global macroeconomic condition reduces insurers' ability to rely on investment income to achieve profitability. Insurers tend to respond through greater hesitation to take on risk that might negatively impact their underwriting results, further reducing the market's capacity. Additionally, uncertain macroeconomic conditions may reduce global investors' willingness to provide capital, creating further capacity constraints. End of quote there. Deloitte said insurers, intermediaries, and clients must prepare themselves for a continuation of the current hard market conditions, and that a full Canadian economic recovery is forecast for 2022 at the earliest. So what we're seeing basically is less supply, increasing premiums and costs, and availability challenges. At this point, Deloitte expects economic impacts in the insurance market will be reduced, which is likely to result, as I said, in rise in underwriting capacity and lower annual increases in insurance rates past that 2022 mark. However, action is still required in the short term. Canada's insurers and intermediaries need to find creative solutions to ensure the Canadian businesses can access the insurance they need. And we are taking action. To weather the storm, IBC and our member companies have implemented a comprehensive action plan to support commercial clients and business owners during these challenging times. This work began before the pandemic, as insurance challenges emerged in certain sectors like condominium corporations and commercial trucking. In 2019, IBC launched a national task force on commercial insurance that brings insurers and their consumers together to discuss challenges in the market and develop solutions. So far this past year, we have held roundtables across the country with condominium stakeholders in Alberta and BC, the Canadian commercial trucking industry, the not-for-profit sector, and the Ontario hospitality industry. IBC also established a commercial support team to meet with businesses and organizations to understand issues specific sectors may be facing and work with our members to find solutions. We've invested in additional experts and trained risk managers to challenge jurisdictions to work directly with commercial clients to get the information and insights they need to find affordable insurance. We set up dedicated commercial helpline to assist business customers in understanding the market dynamics and their insurance options. And we're working closely with the Canadian Federation of Independent Business to triage sector-specific issues as they arise. IBC has also increased public awareness and education, including a dedicated website, so businesses and organizations are equipped with essential information on risk management, strategies, and can access detailed information about the current market conditions and potential public policy options. Today's webinar is another way we are reaching out to the business community and business owners directly. We want to hear directly from you about the issues you are facing. As we continue to engage with government and stakeholders to seek out solutions as the COVID-19 pandemic places an even greater stress on the commercial insurance market. Excuse me. We've launched our Business Insurance Action Team to assist customers even further. And it helps struggling and small businesses, primarily in the hospitality sector at the moment, to secure insurance amid the current economic challenges, especially highlighted through the pandemic. While this initiative is currently focused in Ontario for small restaurants, bars, taverns, and banquet halls, it can be expanded to other parts of the country as needed. Working directly with brokers and business owners, a risk manager and a committee of insurers will assess and review eligible business applications to make loss prevention recommendations and help them find coverage. The business would not be obligated to accept coverage from the Business Insurance Action Team, and we cannot guarantee that all businesses would obtain coverage. The initial focus is on the hospitality industry in Ontario, as I said, where we've seen restaurants primarily have been hugely impacted. We have set up our website for access and information, and just wanted to highlight that here. It's businessinsurancehelp.ca. Provides a tremendous amount of information and resources. Encourage anyone to go on and review the website details and follow the process if you believe you qualify and need assistance in terms of support for your business insurance. IBC's risk management services. We have a highly experienced team of risk managers specializing in identifying risks to your businesses and recommending preventative measures to minimize these risks impacting the long and short-term cost of your insurance plan. It's important to know, however, that IBC's risk manager service does not take a one-size-fits-all approach, as we recognize all businesses have different needs, different issues, and different locations. Staff can explain the insurance placement system in Canada and the best ways to find an insurance broker or agent that meets your needs. In addition, they will outline the types of coverages and pricing you need to consider your business's environment in today's marketplace. They will also review your current policy and provide suggestions on how you and your broker or agent can enhance your insurance placement goals. Now, the first step to accessing IBC's risk managers, obviously, in addition to our website, is our dedicated helpline. And that can be reached, and we'll show the number again, 1-844-2-ASK-IBC, the number 2-ASK-IBC, or 1-844-227-5422. The service is available to help any business or organization, including non-for-profits facing challenges with availability and affordability of insurance. IBC's highly trained experts, again, offer tremendous value at no cost in supporting businesses and organizations and helping them secure coverage. The risk managers are already working with multiple businesses and organizations since this initiative was launched in the fourth quarter of 2020. We're already hearing success stories, and that's a great sign. To date, IBC and insurers have helped more than 150 businesses find insurance coverage through the Business Insurance Helpline, the website, and IBC's risk manager and industry partnerships. This includes some of the following. We've fielded 149 calls providing tips and information. Our risk manager has worked with 32 applicants, 14 of which secured insurance through the regular market, which is ideal. A roster of managing general agents, or MGAs, is set up as part of the Business Insurance Action Team process, and they've also offered quotes to 2 businesses. And the team's participating insurers provided quotes to 2 small businesses. Now, an MGA, for those people who may not be aware, is a bit of a hybrid role. Excuse me. They manage part of the insurance business, acting as an agent and a broker at the same time, and deal with everything from underwriting a risk to the claims side of it. And they work with intermediaries, representatives, insurance representatives, and brokers, as well as their clients. Now, the risk manager continues to work with 5 businesses right now on a to-day basis to help them secure coverage, as well as working with new applicants. And we continue to receive new applications on an almost daily basis. Those applicants or those businesses that are not eligible for BIAT, or the Business Insurance Action Team, however, can still use the service provided through the helpline and our risk manager. Just to highlight some examples of businesses that have found coverage through the resources provided by BIAT. These include a organization that runs, or a club that runs, organization in Moonbeam, Ontario. It's a seasonal, not-for-profit social club catering to families and is operated by volunteers. The organization was declined coverage from its previous insurer due to a change in market appetite. IBC's risk manager worked closely with the broker of record to find coverage in the regular market. In Belleville, Ontario, a neighborhood pub saw its current insurer decline the pub's renewal due to a change in market appetite, providing for commercial insurance in hospitality space. After approaching multiple insurers, the broker of record was unable to find a company to underwrite the pub as required. And again, many of these businesses have conditions if they are renting or leasing space that they require insurance. After the risk manager offers some advice on operational issues related to host liquor liability, participating BIAT insurers provided coverage. There was a restaurant in Brantford, Ontario that was unable to find commercial insurance after a recent claim related to a fire. The new owner undertook mitigation efforts to address issues related to the fire loss, and IBC worked with the MGA roster through the Business Insurance Action Team to get a quote for the business that provided coverage with only a moderate increase in premium compared to the prior year. And finally, there was an event center hall located in Windsor, Ontario that was unable to secure insurance after its insurer reduced capacity in the hospitality sector. And we have seen insurers exiting or reducing capacity in the sector. IBC and its risk manager worked with industry partners to help this business secure insurance. So what can business owners do? Now, this isn't a challenge that can be successfully confronted by any individual player. We need to work as a partnership. For business owners, there are steps, however, that can be taken to reduce the risk profile, and that includes working with their insurance representative to ensure they have the right coverage for their needs, developing a robust risk management strategy. And I would also note that for the majority of business, there's coverage available in the marketplace still today. It is a highly competitive industry, but it's important to shop around. And that involves working with a broker at best who knows the marketplace. Next is risk management. Now, managing a risk is an essential part of every business, large or small. You can help control the cost of your insurance premiums and improve your business operations by adopting risk management strategies. The steps you take today can lead to long-term savings on your insurance premiums. Most important way to start this process is work with a commercial insurance agent or broker who knows your type of business, as I said, and is willing to invest the time and effort to understand your specific needs. A proactive insurance agent or broker is a valuable asset to your company. Now, for anyone operating a business, you likely currently have a support team, perhaps an accountant and a lawyer. I would encourage you to ensure that you also have an active insurance representative, broker, or risk manager as part of that team. Risk management strategies can be varied depending on the type of business. When planning your insurance coverage, an important step to take with the help of your insurance representative is to identify those potential losses that could critically threaten your business and insure against them. Ask questions about everything you think could happen to your business and how would insurance respond in those situations. You can help protect your property from loss and help reduce insurance costs by taking a few positive steps on your own to discourage burglars, shoplifters, vandals, arsonists, and others. Investing in loss prevention often results in lower insurance premiums. Now, the partnership could include government. And what can governments do as businesses seek to reestablish operations and restore their balance sheets in the midst of this, the continued impacts of COVID-19? All these businesses will be confronting many uncertainties. Government has a role to play here by implementing temporary measures to provide liability immunity for businesses reopening. The Ontario government actually recently passed Bill 218, supporting Ontario's Recovery Act in December. The bill includes civil liability protection to individuals, businesses, and other organizations that make an honest effort to follow public health guidelines against COVID-19 exposure-related lawsuits. And thankfully, this bill was made retroactive to March 2020. BC, New Brunswick, and Saskatchewan also have passed similar civil liability immunity protections. Liability immunity reforms support businesses in the midst of undertaking the substantial challenge of attempting to recover from the impacts of the pandemic while ensuring sufficient consumer protection. The end result is that businesses following protocols are protected against costs associated with frivolous lawsuits, and consumers remain protected with businesses required to follow government protocols. Other steps government can take include implementation of regulatory reforms related to land use planning and building codes to mitigate risks and reduce claims, implementation of education and training programs within certain sectors, for example, commercial, trucking, or condominium, to improve the sector's risk profile. In closing, the challenges in Canada's commercial insurance market will not end overnight. The impact of COVID-19 on businesses and increasing costs of severe weather events and natural disasters remain difficult to forecast, but are likely to continue to pose issues for this foreseeable future, putting an even greater pressure on insurers and their clients. Canada's insurers stand with your business customers and businesses and believe that by working together alongside our government partners, we can together meet and overcome the challenges we face today in the commercial insurance market. I encourage anyone experiencing challenges securing insurance to utilize the resources that we've established to help, including our website, which is at, again, www.businessinsurancehelp.ca. IBC also encourages small business owners facing challenges to call our business insurance helpline. Again, here's the number, 1-844-2-ASK-IBC, 1-844-227-5422. Commercial insurance is a highly competitive market, and it is very possible that another insurance company can offer a different option at a lower rate. It's critical that businesses explore all available options. We are here to help. With that, I want to turn it over to Daniel for the Q&A session.
Thanks, Pete, and thank you for that presentation and overview. Very helpful. You already prefigured one of the questions we got on Slido by putting that helpline number up again. So thank you for that. So look, we have a few questions that, a number of questions that were submitted in advance. So thank you to all the participants who did that. And maybe if I might just divide those into kind of three broad categories, we'll go through them quickly and then turn it over to Slido for questions that have come in just now. Three categories are affordability, availability, and coverage. So maybe to start you off with a softball, we got a question around how to stop the huge jump in insurance costs. And I know you touched on this in your presentations, but maybe specifically, what options are available to businesses, particularly those in the hotel and accommodation sectors that have been hit, disproportionately hard by the pandemic and are now dealing with very high increases in their insurance?
Well, specific to the hospitality sector, we recognize the problem, and that's why the rollout of the Business Insurance Action Team is primarily right now focused on that industry in Ontario. So working with your broker is always key and critical. We've heard concerns, though, that there may not be much time in advance of a renewal, so try and start that process as early as possible. Well before your renewal comes in, it's important to understand and look at that. Look at the options available to you, especially the businesses that have been reduced their operating hours or their availability to provide their products. There may be options and products tailored to that situation. Again, it's important to read and understand the policies. And if I could just pivot, because I'm sure it's on people's minds, one of the questions that I'd seen come in early is with respect to the type of coverages available. Sit down as part of that renewal process to review and understand, and I mentioned it in my remarks, understand what your policy and what you're covered for and what inevitabilities might occur in your it depends on the operation. And I've been in the industry now over 26 years, and there's always new twists. We've never seen a pandemic before, and this is impacting the industry and trying to help people recover. But the focus primarily on a lot of the property insurance policies has been property damage. And so this is a struggle, and it's causing some frustration. But again, initially, I want to highlight when the first wave occurred, businesses were taking steps to protect and reduce their risks, such as removing stock, removing equipment, especially if they were in areas that they couldn't operate, boarding up glass and windows. A worthwhile step to take to minimize the risk. Sharing that type of information with your broker, indicating that you do have a risk management plan, is helpful when you're shopping around in the marketplace. And there are still, as I noted by the comments as well, a lot of capacity is still available, just requires more work and effort. Unfortunately, we have seen some reduction in the supply of insurance while the demand has remained the same. So that is one of those economic 101 situations where prices will go up because the supply hasn't matched the demand, or supply is reduced and demand is level.
Thanks, Pete. And I know you touched on this a little bit in your presentation, sort of in terms of medium and long-term strategies to decrease premiums, but we did get a few questions around hotels specifically struggling to deal with insurance rates in some cases that have tripled. Obviously, they're struggling as well on the revenue side. So any strategies to decrease premiums specifically for those folks?
That likely is a situation where individuals are going to have to look at their operations, or businesses are going to have to look at their operations, and maybe going forward adjust their level of coverage that they're needing, because they're doing less business, because there is less exposure, as well there's less traffic. So that is a consideration. And again, sometimes, unfortunately, by human nature, when you get your insurance renewal, you don't typically look at the various coverage sections. You'll look at the bottom line, which is how much are you paying. I would encourage everyone, especially those in the hospitality sector, the hotels and motels, and we're aware that because of the challenge in capacity, we have seen one of the programs through one of the hotel associations that has fallen on difficult times, that has no longer operating, and so that has created a bigger gap for some of those properties that used to participate in that program, that were benefiting from that sort of group marketing. It's important that you look at what you can do in terms of your coverages as well, and making that adjustment is sometimes helpful.
That's a good point. We'll get into coverage in just a second. In terms of availability, kind of switching to the second bucket a little bit, obviously, a number of businesses have transitioned to work from home. The new guidelines from the Ontario government encouraging businesses to do that. So how do we prepare businesses for ensuring work from home and perhaps more vacant offices, at least in the medium term?
Well, one of the nice things that many insurance companies have done that again, people may not be aware of, is expanded coverage for homeowners and residents, people living in apartments and condos and homes, providing coverage for those individuals who are working from home, because there's more exposure. Actually, on a side note, we've seen through the fire department's stats that there are actually home fires are up because more people are spending time at home. And unfortunately, I suspect multitasking, working, looking after kids, and that's resulting in some claims. But insurers are recognizing that and are offering additional coverage or not adjusting premiums upwards because people are using their homes more. But from the larger sense, when there are properties that are still vacant, there may still be a requirement to maintain business. Your exposures may be reduced. So again, it goes back to the point of sitting down with your broker or insurance representative to look at your coverage levels. Do you still need the same level of coverage if you have less product in a facility, if offices and office spaces, again, different situations depending on scope and size. But there are solutions you can explore looking at the actual coverage amounts, because there might be reductions that can be done on those coverages that will save on the premium. And there was actually, it was noted to me that there's a property, a hotel in British Columbia, where the broker went back and because of the decrease in business and the amounts that they were insured for originally, they were able to get a bit of a refund on their premiums and policies, which helped. And so again, have those conversations. Communication is key and critical in this time and space.
Could not agree with you more on that point. So Pete, in terms of coverage, could you kind of help guide folks through what options are available out there for businesses who've experienced interruption during a pandemic?
And appreciate that question. And that's one thing that, especially early on, the industry faced, and there was some media coverage about with regards to business interruption. And so just as a bit of a quick overview, property insurance and business insurance, typically for the most part, it deals with actual physical losses, fires, vandalism, theft. Pandemics, things of that nature, because it typically isn't as a result of a physical loss, the property is still standing, the business is still there, although it may be operating on a very reduced schedule with tremendous limitations placed on it. Property insurance, which is the property and casualty marketplace, focuses on the stuff, the belongings, the properties. And so there has not been standard coverage or endorsements available for pandemics. And so that is one of the challenges that individuals who, as part of the base policy, don't have damage to their physical property and may have only suffered a loss because of the operation, yet may have a business interruption endorsement on a policy. And I know we're getting technical, and I encourage people to contact our consumer or business call center for details, but that won't apply, or that type of coverage won't apply unless the underlying policy is triggered. And so it's an understanding and misinformation or lack of clarity, unfortunately, that we're trying so hard to help people with and understand. Now, there have been examples for anyone who might have been to the dentist in the last 6 to 8 months. Many of the dentist's offices now have changed their processes in terms of spacing, yes, but there likely is also additional air filtration equipment and barriers between spaces that in some cases was covered under a specific program and policy. So while there may be coverage, in all likelihood there isn't, but the best source is always to go to your broker, to your policy, and see what you are covered for. And going forward, as I can just highlight, we talked about the various events and catastrophes that have struck. When the flooding that occurred in Calgary in 2013 occurred, there wasn't a great uptake in the market for flood insurance. There wasn't a lot of insurance companies that were offering it because there wasn't much demand from consumers who were seeking it out. Following that event, the demand increased and the supply then increased as well. So there have been changes to products and to coverages based on situations. Might that be the case here because of the pandemic? It's hard to say. It's hard to tell. I'm not all that optimistic, but just to flag for people that anything is possible. So it's important. It's important to keep regular contact. So annually, when you get your insurance renewal, don't just rip it open to look to see how much you're going to be paying. Ask some questions of your broker or agent about coverages and what's changed and what benefits may have been added to the policy, or what changes you may be able to take advantage of to help support your business.
Thanks, Pete. I just want to rip through two real quick coverage questions that I'd be remiss not to get to, just because they were specific and thoughtful, and then I'll turn to the questions that are being submitted on Slido, some of which are overlapping with particularly the one that was just asked. So we got a submission from a sign and printing manufacturer that also makes PPE gear since 2020. They are renewing their liability insurance and found out that many insurance companies do not want to insure their business due to the fact that they sell a PPE, specifically in this case, face shields. They explained that face shield revenue is considered high risk due to customers potentially blaming the manufacturer for catching the COVID-19 virus, even though they were wearing a face shield. They do have a temporary medical device establishment license from Health Canada, but a lot of manufacturers are dropping out of manufacturing PPE for this reason. So, questions about international competitiveness surrounding this and, our own supply of PPE. Do you have any suggestions with regard to this issue?
Well, again, unfortunately, it's a standard answer, but shopping around is important. The other plus that I highlighted is the fact that governments, especially here in Ontario and BC and some other jurisdictions across the country, have introduced some liability immunity legislation to help protect businesses that will be operating in good faith. I've also seen some of the commentary with some of the legal community who are saying it may be difficult. It's not impossible that you won't see lawsuits or claims, but it may be difficult to prove or support a lawsuit or a claim against a manufacturer like that. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, following proper protocols and the fact that we do have some legislation now with regards to immunity for those operators who do follow protocols, and if the equipment is vetted and approved for distribution, it shouldn't be an issue. But again, sit down with the experts, sit down with the brokers, and look for coverage, because it's important to have coverage for other inevitabilities and situations that may arise.
Thanks, Pete. And so much of the fitness industry has obviously been moving virtual in terms of their delivery. What type of insurance do you need to protect yourself against somebody on the other side of the ocean? Or perhaps in a different country in the US, which may use a fitness video and injure themselves?
For any business like that, liability insurance is key. And that's the coverage that will protect or respond in those situations where someone claims they've been injured as a result. And it applies to the PPE question as well. It's that liability component, not so much just the product, but if you're offering a service, again, workouts, healthcare type of thing. If you're providing a service, protecting yourself through enough liability coverage and a liability endorsement or policy on your business is critical.
Thank you. Apologies for the background noise there. And I'll move now towards some of the questions that were getting submitted through Slido. So from the Surrey Board of Trade, you mentioned that insurance are limited to investing on bonds only. Is there a way insurers can access other investment opportunities?
If there is, I'm not a finance expert. I'm not aware of any others. But again, it's fairly limited. Insurance companies have been obligated to invest in very secure instruments, and that's why typically it's bonds, especially government bonds. It's good for the economy to have those dollars invested, but it really is limited. And as that is regulated by the government, it would be the government that would have to make a determination to allow any different type of investment options for insurers.
A question from Steve Key, congratulating you on the BIAT. Realistically, how long does it take to have business reviewed?
Once forms come in, and again, obviously there's some information and details we need, it can be a very quick process. However, it also depends on how busy the risk managers are. So some of these turnarounds can be within a matter of a week or two, which is important to understand. It could even be less. but you need to have a bit of a window so that brokers and businesses aren't coming to us at the very last minute. Commercial insurance is a little more involved and complicated than some other lines of insurance, so we do need a bit of a window, and the risk managers need to shop it around and have some conversations. So it has been, we have seen some quick turnarounds, but again, the more time, the better the solution will be.
A question from Brad Butt, Mississauga Board of Trade. Insurance in the hospitality sector is often gauged on the percentage of alcohol sales versus food. Can the insurers have more flexibilities on this?
Well, yes, and some of the work the risk managers have been doing is looking at and working with the insurance market on that specific issue for some of those hospitality risks. So it is reviewed on a case-by-case basis, and in some instances, the values, the percentages, the ratios are changing because of the environment that we're in. So yes, it depends on the history of the establishment as well. There are many factors, but that is, of course, something that is worthwhile discussing with the broker and then with the insurance company's underwriter.
We had a question submitted. We are facing a real problem to get reasonable CLI offers. Can you help newly established corporations on that front, or any insights to offer?
I would just encourage, because not knowing the details of the business and the risks, contact and reach out to our business insurance action team and our business hotline or the website, and get some further details offline. But we're available and willing. As well, obviously, a good first step is always shopping the market for brokers. And if there are comparable businesses that you know of, I've often encouraged individual business owners to reach out to their competitors sometimes and say, who do you use as a broker? What insurance company do you use? Because it's important. If you have someone who's knowledgeable about the risk, they can do a better job supporting that business.
Thanks, Pete. We've got two last ones here to quickly cover off. Obviously, right now the lockdowns are in place, and so some folks are naturally wondering, is there a way to get a break on insurance, at least during this mandated time of more stringent public health measures?
Yes, as noted, many insurance companies have been supporting their businesses either with deferrals or refunds. So again, reach out to your broker or the insurance company directly and have those conversations. You may be surprised if you haven't yet. Encourage everyone who's in a difficult situation to do that and see what options are available, because many insurers are supporting businesses in many different ways.
And the last one here, Pete, is regarding concerns that we should be aware of for an automotive service centers.
Well, from an insurance perspective, they're still going to need the same type of policy and coverages. I understand that they're still operating in many jurisdictions, obviously with some limitations in terms of spacing and such. But it depends on the nature of the business. Your liability coverage is always key. If you have equipment that you own, you want to ensure that that is properly insured as well. Unfortunately, we have seen situations, and there's still many claims that are occurring now, even in the pandemic, and some businesses that are suffering losses due to theft and things of that nature. So you want to make sure that you are properly insured. Again, sit down with your insurance representative, review how busy you are, look at your coverage limits, but also make sure you've got proper coverages in place for things that you need to ensure that if your business was impacted, if you had a theft of equipment, how would you operate and would you be able to replace it? These are questions your broker is going to ask you and work with you on. So work with your broker.
Pete, thank you for that. And I know I said that was the last question, but if you'll excuse me, I may have lied. We got one last one, and perhaps then we'll pass it over to Patrick right after that. Do you have any, I want to squeeze this in as well, because it is an important question regarding cross-border relations and trade. Do you have any advice for a business that plans to import goods from the US for resale here in Canada?
again, those are a bit specialized in terms of lines of commercial insurance, and so it requires looking at which insurers are available and do operate in that space. Insurance is still available, especially bringing in essential products. Contact our business team, and we do have some resources that we can direct individuals to look for specific types of businesses and coverages that are being offered by specific providers. So we can connect people with who is out there in that space.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you to everyone for submitting such thoughtful questions. And with that, I will turn it over to Patrick.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're quickly running out of time, so I want to thank you all again for joining us today. We know your time is valuable, so thank you for choosing to spend it with us. Additionally, a big thanks to IBC and the Ontario Chamber for leading this session. Again, thank you, IBC, for your leadership during this time of crisis and putting forward so many resources for Canadian businesses to tap into. These conversations are greatly appreciated by the Canadian Chamber and the entire business community. With that, I thank everyone for joining, and I wish everyone a good rest of the day.